welcome to Newsmakers for this Victoria Day Monday, May 20th, 2024. I'm Louie Butko, and thank you for joining us. Every so often here on the show, we want to take you behind the scenes and get to know some of the people you see and don't see every day on CHCH. And today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Morning Live co-host Tim Bolen. A graduate of Brock University's sport management program, Tim held various odd-end jobs before deciding to take the plunge into television, getting his start at the Weather Network and a couple other spots before landing here at CHCH, where for more than 10 years he was the sports reporter and Morning Live adventure reporter, and on the way launched his own show, Rollin' with Bolen, and then September 2022 stepped into the big chair alongside Annette Hom, following the retirement of longtime co-host Bob Cowan. And Tim, I mean, that was a big step for you.
Good. Yeah.
It was kind of, was that what you always wanted to do? I mean, obviously it's not what you wanted to do. You went to sport management.
Yeah.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
First off, couldn't find anybody else today. Does anybody want to do my podcast?
Hey guys, Monday's a holiday.
Anybody out there want to do?
Welcome to the show.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, man.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I've always liked sports. Mm-hmm. That's why we get along so well, I think. So it was always something in the back of my mind to be involved in a sports team or something like that. Like I never thought I could be like a general manager or something like that, but just have some sort of involvement. And then that program at Brock
was relatively new.
Was very new. Yeah. I wasn't the first class, but I was one of the new classes there. And then I took that, and then kind of more on the business side. And then I moved to Toronto, and I got a job in sales, which I think actually is really important for any kid coming out of school, is to get a job in sales, because you have to learn to talk to people. Like that's just an essential thing, and like make cold calls and that type of stuff. You know what my first actually job was? You know what I was doing? I was selling season tickets to the Toronto Argonauts to corporate companies.
Oh, that's kind of a tough sell.
Didn't go well.
You learned rejection pretty early on in that job.
Didn't go really well. But there was a whole slew of us, like young graduates, that like we had like outfits, and we would go out to the community and like knock on doors and try and sell Argos season tickets. But again, like that's something that like it's not an easy sell, but you get to do it as a kid, and you don't really, I don't know, you kind of learn the ropes and find that way.
I sold cell phones.
Did you?
Yeah, I was at a little Virgin Mobile kiosk in college. Like my first job, obviously, like high school job, was like Sobeys, making
those
sandwiches,
little kiosks
delis.
In the mall?
Yeah, a little mall kiosk. I wonder
what people are doing in there.
Virgin Mobile. Yeah, that's trying to sell cell phones. So it was again the idea of like talking to people and getting that. Oh, what do you need? And asking questions, then responding to questions. Because that's the thing. I told you straight up. I'm like, I have nothing prepared here today.
Yeah.
And hopefully the bosses aren't listening and be like, well, he didn't do any prep for this show at all. I did know you went to Brock, so I put that in there. Because it was like one of those things that, you know, for this job, I have to ask questions, and it's one thing to have them there in front of you and to know what you want to ask, but you need to listen when you're selling.
Yeah, and you have to have an interest. You have to have an interest in people, I think too, and then you have to know your audience too, and who you're talking to. So those are kind of some things that really interesting. So
you're selling season tickets for the Argos.
Yeah.
See, you weren't somebody who always had the itch to be on TV then.
No, not initially. No, and then I was just like. And then I wanted to be an actor. So then I got into acting and like did that for a bit and like had some like minor success, like doing like some commercials and things like that. Yeah. And then that stopped.
Okay.
Because I went like, I don't know, like I think I got like my first acting audition. I got the job. I'm like,
this is so easy.
Why have I not done this before?
Yeah.
And then I got a couple other ones, and then I went like 0 for like 85 or something like that, and just like paying the bills and just wasn't really working out. So then I got a job at the Keg, and then ended up meeting my wife there, and realized that I wasn't really a good actor.
Okay.
I was better at being myself, to be totally honest. So then I went to school. I went to Seneca and just took some kind of an accelerated journalism program, and did that, and then got a job at the Weather Network, which was cool because again, there's no script like you have today. Like there is a talent in that. Like a lot of people are used to scripts and reading off of teleprompters, which is an important skill. But you also have to be able to ad lib and be thrown things quickly and be able to deal with it like. It doesn't seem like something was just thrown at you quickly. Yeah. You know what I mean?
If somebody's in your ear saying that, and I've gotten that compliment from like, you know, bosses, especially like radio too, right? A lot of times people will be talking to your ear as you're talking, and that's a skill that we don't really, like, we sort of sometimes take for granted that we can do it as easily as we can sometimes. Not that it's not, again, not trying to whatever sound like we're the best that we do.
No, but you would have, it'd be easier for you to for somebody to tell you to shut up rather than.
Which, I mean, we do get told that every once in a while. I mean,
that's your radio muscle, right? Like I've never worked in radio, but that's a muscle that you do get from radio because you got to be able to fill time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then working in the TV thing, it's more specific to time. So you have to be able to work to the times that are given you.
Weather Network, you bounced around a couple places. How'd you get the job here?
Yeah, so they were starting a brand new morning show, the earliest morning show in the country.
Yeah.
Do you know this story?
No.
No, it was called Morning Live First Edition, and it started at 4 a.m. Yeah, on the air at 4 a.m. because they wanted to. They thought because there's a lot of commuters, right? And they wanted to tackle those commuters that were getting up early and going to Toronto and getting that information out there. It's a big thing in like the U.S. Like all their morning shows start at 4 a.m. because people are up early and doing that. And even in this community, we forget sometimes like shift workers. You know what I mean? Like with DeFasco and just like all the nurses in the hospitals, like there's a lot of people that are working shifts, so we have to think about that. So I got a job, myself and Jacqueline Colville at the time, now Jacqueline Harper. We started this show, the two of us, and it was just it was a precursor to Morning Live. Yeah. So we did that for 4 years.
The Adventure Reporter thing.
Yeah.
I've obviously been, I've filled in for you before. Yeah. I've filled in for Emily, and we'll be filling in for Emily a couple times this summer as well. But that job, there's such a uniqueness to that job because it is something new every day. What did you take away from your time doing that you think has helped make you a better broadcaster?
Well, I just for me, it was just going out into the community and getting to know the community so well and all the different faces and all the talent that was out there. Also got to eat and drink a lot. Like Luke and I, totally. But even like camera guy Luke and I would be like driving around and like people would be like, "Hey Tim, what are you eating today, bud?" You know what I mean? Because we did have a bit of an MO that we would be eating a lot, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I think every day was different. You know what I mean? And you also like some topics I'm more interested in than other topics, but you have to like the biggest compliment I could ever get is just like, man, you were really into that such and such. You know what I mean? When you on the outside, it wouldn't look like it would be interesting. So to make something that isn't interesting, to have somebody able to maybe continue to watch it and learn a little bit, that was kind of the biggest.
I don't want to say there's some acting skills involved in that, but
yeah, a little bit, maybe, but ad-libbing styles and comfortability styles. And also, because a lot of the time, you know this too, a lot of times people have never been on TV before, right? So being able to make them comfortable in their environment, like they know everything that they're talking about, or they should, they're running this business, but then having a big camera put in their face and a microphone in their face, it gets a little intimidating. Just like anything, because if you're not used to doing something and you're thrust into it in front of a camera to do it, it's not easy.
I always found that was a great compliment after the fact. It was like, you made that so easy.
Yeah.
You made that so easy. Because when you do go into people, they're nervous. Luke's right there.
For sure.
He's following you around. I've never been on TV before. And like my go-to line is always just like, we're just talking. Like, you know what you're talking about. If I can be on TV, anybody can be on TV. Like, let's go. And then, by the end of it, they're like, oh my gosh, it's over?
Yeah.
That's it? I didn't sleep last night because I was so nervous about doing it. They're like, it is making people feel comfortable. Is that a skill you've always had, though? Is that like, have you always been sort of
I think like just
an empathetic person like
just
that?
Just gregarious. Yeah, I would say that. Just being from a big family where you have to get as many words in as you can. You know all about that, right? We're both from big families. Yours is even bigger than mine. Yeah. So maybe that's why you're a little louder than me. Because you really got to get your voice.
Well, let's not say I'm louder, okay? Okay, sorry.
I can get up there with you too. But I think that's a little bit. It comes from my mom, who was very chatty, who would talk to anybody and would get to know them, their whole life story in a quick little sit down or a little stop and chat. Yeah. So I think a little bit of that comes from it, and just interested in people, and everybody's different. But also, I like asking the questions. I don't like being questions asked to me, because even in this situation, even though you've prepared nothing,
quiet.
I don't know what you're. I don't know. Like,
we don't know where we're going.
I'm on my heels. Normally, I'm never on my heels. I'm always on my toes because I know what's coming, and I can kind of anchor things. Right?
I find that too. That I like asking questions. Then when people start asking me questions, even about work, like even about my job, and like if I'm at a family, like if I'm at a gathering where people, how's work? That's good.
Yeah.
Like I'm so quick with my answers because I'd rather find more information about other people. Totally. Like I find it's a weird ground where like I really like asking questions. but hate being asked questions. Like you say, even this, I'm sure if I was a podcast guest on Newsmakers, I probably wouldn't know how to handle it. Like I've been on Bubba's is sports. I can talk sports all you want, but to get personal, to get deep, that part's a little bit
But
trickier.
that's even the thing about this podcast game that you're so good at, and I'm trying to get used to too. It is really just, it is a conversation. That's what you're trying to get out, right?
Yeah.
That's why you're chatting with me, maybe other people that work here, and the versatility that you have is a real talent. You know what I mean? Because it's not easy to know so many different topics. You know what I mean? Like I pretend that I would know sports a little bit. I dabble in news too. Obviously, you have to know that. Entertainment, you have to know all that stuff, but be able to master it.
I got a great compliment from our boy Jim Diodati last week. He's like, that was really good.
Yeah.
Because all he saw was like my one sheet of paper.
right.
And he's like, wow, like you managed to do that.
Yeah, but Diodati's is somebody that he's a dream.
He makes it so easy. He does, right? He's an interesting guy. I find he's been the mayor of Niagara Falls for so long that you would think he'd want to move on to something else, and you think, why doesn't he? Why does he still want to be mayor? And then he just really loves that city, right? He embodies what Niagara Falls is. So great episode. In case you haven't seen it, go check it out. Newsmakers with Niagara Falls Mayor Jim Diodati. Let's get back to you. What is your
back to me? Get back to me. Screw you, Jim.
Get out of this one shot here. What is your what's the hardest thing about this job for you?
I think it is what a lot of people don't know is it's such a small team that puts 3 hours of content together for the show. So as soon as we get in the morning, it's go. Annette and I always say it's just like, and producer Tansy too, it's just like being on the hamster wheel. You know what I mean? Everybody involved. And Simone Gavros, who's our morning show reporter, and Johnny, who's our lineup editor, and our wonderful editors, Steve and Aaron, for the most part. It's just go, go, go. Like as soon as you get in, like I feel kind of bad because I'm not very chatty when I get in because I'm just kind of like, there's just a lot to do on that list to get ready for 6 at the start of the show. So from like 3:30 until 10 to 6, it's just like getting everything ready, and then it's quickly change, makeup, let's go. And then that's when the show starts, that's when I find it's the easiest part, because that's the easiest stuff, because we get along so well with Brian, with Annette, and with Emily.
It flies though.
It does.
Like
it
that's
does,
the
for
one
sure.
thing I've noticed is I've only done it once, and I've I will be filling in for you this summer. For your vacation.
Wow.
So 4 weeks, and Annette and I will be on the desk.
Weeks, trying to steal my job, is he?
Trying to, man. Trying to. No, of course not. But because it does fly, 6 to 9. It's just like it's a blur.
That's why it's great though. It does. It does move by quickly. And it's always changing too, because so let's say today is a holiday, it's a different type of show because people aren't.
It's harder to get people here. Well, case in point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and even like the viewers that might be watching, they're in a different mode. They're not in work mode. They don't need to like take in as much information as they can in a sitting. Maybe they'll actually sit down and with a coffee. I noticed too, because we have this segment Where You're Watching, which we started a number of months ago, just trying to get. Because that's another thing. You're trying to engage with viewers, trying to get them associated and connected to the show. And a lot of ways you can do that is first properly speak English, which sometimes I have a hard time with, and then is like reaching out to them and saying, let's get involved. Send us stuff. Send us your feel-good time. Send us your pictures of how you're watching the show. And even today, I noticed we were getting some more really great content pictures, because I think people had a bit more time maybe to set up that picture and like actually take it in, rather than their go on a regular day, getting the kids ready for school, or if they're getting themselves ready for work. So that's where you have to kind of realize who's really watching here and at what times.
You mentioned the engagement. People on the internet can be very nice, but people on the internet can sometimes be mean and jerks and haters sometimes. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I don't get too high for all the compliments, and don't get too low for any of the for the haters or the comments, because listen, I'm putting myself in this position. I judge people on TV as well, if I like them or don't like them. Now, I would never send something to them because that's just not my personality, but that can be the personality, especially in our social media worlds. you can't get bogged down by that type of thing, and you have to stay true to your style and the way you do things. Do I maybe look at it and say, okay, how could I have changed something here if it is a constructive criticism? Sure.
Yeah.
Does it bother me? Sure, I guess. But like, you have to realize that it comes with the territory. Like, you can't.
This is what we signed up for.
Yeah, for sure. So you can't get too high or too low. Listen, the compliments are great, but the criticisms are great too, because maybe it could help you with something, or you could just ignore it because there's just people out there that just like to bring you down.
You have three young kids.
Yeah.
I have to think that can be a challenge sometimes, right? Not being there, getting ready for school like that, and it makes those moments maybe you are off, the moments you do get to spend, you get to wake up with them. Like, that part does seem hard. Like, you don't see people like you with young kids sort of having a role like this. How do you deal with that?
I think it's just having just a super supportive partner, right?
Yeah.
In life, and my wife Elizabeth is wonderful. She has. I've always been lucky because she works in the restaurant and service business, so we've always been opposite schedules. So even with daycare and things like that, we never really needed it. It was always kind of like she would do like the drop off in the morning and the morning stuff, and then I come in the afternoon and I kind of tackle that. So in certain respects, I didn't miss a lot of things because I wasn't the 9 to 7 dad that was commuting in, or maybe the 7 to 7 dad where you're missing the morning and you're missing at night because you're gone most of the day. Like, I'm not there in the morning, but I'm definitely there when I pick them up from school, and then now we go to bed at the same time.
What a dream.
Totally. Even last night, because they had the day off, like, I just like, okay, they were up later. I'm just like, we set an alarm on the iPad for 8 o'clock, just like, Daddy's going to bed. When that alarm goes off, it's bedtime, and they're good kids too, so they just put themselves to bed.
You mentioned it. So, what time do you go to bed?
Yeah,
like I said, I'm filling in. So give me some advice. I'm filling in this summer for a couple of weeks. I did it once. I filled in once for you, a little emergency a couple of months back. A lot of fun. Apparently did okay enough that they asked me to come back and fill in this summer. But that's the tough part. Going to bed when the sun's still out.
Yeah.
Like, what's your advice for me this summer?
I've always been lucky that I'm somebody that can sleep during anything. So that is crucial to be able to work these hours. I don't know what your sleep schedule is like, but you have to be able to sleep at any point. Because I'm up at 2, and I kind of tackle the sports like you'll be tackling for me, because you're a sports guy as well. And because you're missing what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Specifically right now, there's so many things going on. So I always like to get up and just throw in like Sports Center or Sportsnet, Sports Central, and just see what I missed. You know what I mean? Just kind of go through the stuff that I missed, and then also at the same time, how am I mapping that out in my head? How I want to translate that to my viewers? Because the viewers that are watching our show, they're not rabid sports fans, because they would be watching those other sports channels, right? So you have to think about who's watching the show, what would they be interested in from a sports perspective, and that's great for our Sportsline chats, because yes, she's a sports fan, she's not a rabid sports fan, but so working together on like what would be of interest to somebody maybe that is a casual fan or things that are going on. So I'm up early, in here at 3:30, and then, as I said, go to get the show up and running and going. And a lot of the time too is after the show you're preparing for the next day's show too. Yeah. Right. So me talking to you right now is really screwing me for tomorrow.
Wow.
But it's the feel good times too. Yeah. The feel good time success is just something that stemmed from the pandemic that was supposed to be a temporary thing, because I was doing sports and there was no sports. So what do? You try and find some fun, cute videos that has really taken off, and a lot of people say it's their favorite part. And that music, you know what I mean? Like people
you
come,
hear the horn.
Well, that's the thing. In the morning too, it's just like it's all about bunny ears, right? Yeah. Bunny ears are down, and all we're trying to do is get those bunny ears up by it's a jingle or by whatever. So it's working and finding those type of videos, and working with folks at home who send them in, and trying to deem if it's funny or interesting.
I mentioned you taking over for Bob Cowan. Bob Cowan sat in that chair for 21 years. Big shoes to fill. What was that like for you? Obviously, you had been part of the show for so long. People knew you. Did you feel more pressure because of that, or was it sort of something you kind of thought was always going to be the plan, that Bob had to retire at some point? Like, how did you handle that that transition from being that sort of, I don't want to say third voice, fourth voice in the conversation to the big chair?
For sure, I was the third or fourth voice, but at the same time, I was a voice in the show. So the comfortability with everybody involved in the show, you definitely knew how it run and how it worked. And again, similar to what you're doing with me, I was Bob's fill-in. You know what I mean? So I even was able to work those muscles of like reading news and going back to even Morning Live First Edition. I was reading news there because like reading news is different than reading sports, and you have to have the proper cadence and proper empathy, but also the proper tone for the type of stories. And I'm still working on that. You know what I mean? You'll always be working on that. I knew I would not fill Bob's shoes because he was such a legend on the show for so long. So our styles are a little bit different. So I was just trying to stay true to the style that I had, that gregarious, energetic tone that I had. So yeah, there was initially there's pressure to see how the show would change, or what would the dynamic show, how would it be different, but I just stayed true to who I am.
And I was just about to say that you are like you're about as genuine as they come in terms of on-air people, and I'm somebody who looks at that, and I try to be that too, right? Like I don't want an on-air Louie and then an off-air Louie. Like I want it to be the same person. That being said,
but that's the biggest compliment somebody could give me.
Yeah,
like if they meet you in a shoot or they meet you on the street, just in general, well, also because like I think in life I'm just a nice person, and people are interested in what I have to say.
Wow.
Which camera am I on? I should have looked right down the barrel of the lens.
Yeah, you should have. No, I would agree. I'm just messing with you.
For the most part, you know what I mean? But like, so stay true to that type of personality.
Yeah.
And then it would show if it's the same, because the worst thing is like if you meet somebody who's totally different than what they are, and it's a total act. That can be their style. It's just not my style.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, and you're someone I emulate with that professionally, and I would say personally, I do like you as a person, Tim Bolen.
Record on
that. Shocked. You look shocked. Any advice? Any advice for working with Annette?
Working with Annette. Well, Annette is kind and wonderful. She's listening right now, so I'm making sure I'm saying all this proper stuff. But she's the best person to work on the desk with, because there's a yin and a yang. You know what I mean? And it takes a little bit to like, and you'll figure this out, to be like if I like read her story, because you kind of you feel each other's cadence, and you know when you can kind of finish each other's. Finish each other's sentences. And the key is what she does to me, and I hopefully try to do for her, is just set her up for success. Yeah. You know what I mean? You have to, at certain times, because I do talk a lot, and I have to think to myself, okay, shut up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let Annette talk. Or let Brian talk, or just like, you have to have those checks to yourself. Am I talking too much? What if what I'm saying, is it making sense, or is it helping move things along? And that's even with chit chat with Emily too. You know what I mean? Like, what's my vantage point here, or am I making the proper points? Or if not, that's fine too, because it's all live. Yeah, you know what I mean. Stuff happens.
Move on. Yeah, that's the other part about being live. It's a lot of times I find that like you do a show. I don't even remember what happened on yesterday's show. Right? Yeah. It's hard to dwell on anything. Right? Even when you do make little flubs, or it wasn't the best show, it's hard to dwell. You know, even a negative comment, like you said, not getting too high, not getting too low, because you know what? Tomorrow at 6 a.m. till 9 a.m. you got to do it all over again. It's going to be another show.
So like having, I'm somebody that does like to plan things out for the most part. Whereas like Annette, when it comes, she's very funny and very spontaneous with her humor. So did you hear that, Annette?
Well, listen, I said I'm filling in for you. I'm also filling in for Emily a couple of times, including her chit chat segments. So we will get to share the screen a couple times this summer. So I'm looking forward to it. That includes going to Deerhurst next month. 1 month today, I will be in Muskoka shooting the segments.
Oh, wow, okay.
Shooting the segments, and then 1 month tomorrow will be the crew. we'll be down there and looking forward to it. Should be a great time. Whoa, we just got the light. We just got the flash.
Does that mean we're done or nobody's listening?
I guess so. Well, I mean, this is being taped, so nobody is listening right now. A couple people will listen once it gets posted. Don't worry.
Or was that Annette just not happy with the comments that I passed along to her?
She's going to turn off the studio lights. Well, Tim, listen. Bob Cowan was sitting in that chair for 21 years, so you got 19 years left before I can take over for you. So looking forward to that. Thank you for making the time today.
Listen, pal. It's a small industry, and it's a small team that we have here. But like working together, and like the positivity needs to be there to have success. So let's continue. Let's continue to do it.
And the smallness of this team, and I've worked for big corporations in this business. Weather Network I think was a little bit different in that it kind of probably.
But it's an independent station, though, too, much like this.
Yeah, and so I've never felt more at home at a job in this industry than I have here. So it's because of people like you who agree to do this show on a holiday Monday, who's also just a great guy. So thanks for doing this,
buddy. Thanks, buddy. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, man. My thanks to Tim Bolen for joining me today. There he is. And my thanks to Laura Brody for directing today's show. Thank you so much, Laura Brody. We appreciate you very much. And thank you for listening, because we could not do the show without your support. And hey, while you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to CHCH Podcast so you never miss an episode of this show or any of the other great shows we have for you, including Sportsline with Bubba O'Neill. I'm sure Tim Bolen's going to be a guest on that show probably in the next few weeks again soon. So check him out on that show as well. One more time, thank you for joining us from all of us here at CHCH. I'm Louie Butko. Happy Victoria Day Monday.